When we observe phenomena, if our mind is greedy, it'll be heavy. There isn't much to the practice. It's just about learning about ourselves, learning this body, learning this mind. What for? Once we truly learn, then we will release attachment and clinging to this body and to this mind. That's because the suffering is at the body and at the mind. So when we release these things, we're releasing suffering. We can become liberated from them. The practice isn't hard. Just understand the principles and don't practice from greed. Laziness is also a very evil or bad thing. I don't have Dhamma to teach you if you're lazy. They ask for some Dhamma from me. There's nothing I can do if you're lazy. Just if all we do is spend our time online and then we come to the teacher and ask for advice, the teacher won't have any advice for us, not because we don't have kindness towards you or metta, loving kindness for you, but because there isn't any Dhamma available to teach if your mind isn't ready for it. Some of the masters would just be neutral or indifferent when someone comes to them who doesn't have a mind that is ready for Dhamma. Anybody here raise dogs? When you pour water on the back of a dog, they just shake it off, right? It's an analogy that students who aren't ready for it, they just get it and they toss it out. But if we love goodness and we have faith, willingness to practice, then the Dhamma is expounded. Some masters don't speak that much. They just say one or two words, and if we understand, that's enough. They just say those few words. In the old days, the masters would just say a few words or sentences. They would teach a very short piece of Dhamma, not like I do. I speak a lot. In those days, there were just groups of a few people, and the master would just teach a sentence or two to each of the people who came to learn, and that would be all. But there are over 1,000 people listening. Everybody's mind is different. They aren't all equivalent here listening, so the teachings aren't the same for everyone. So when teaching a mass audience, or we have to teach broadly, and then you have to do the work. Submitting homework is different and rather subtle what is happening, because of very specific teachings for us. Sometimes it's like we're practicing in one way, and then when the master gives us advice, it feels like it's a totally different thing that the master is saying. Sometimes we're confused when they submit homework and I reply, give advice, they're confused. But there isn't a problem if we are diligent in our practice. Those who don't understand and are listening in to advice for specific people can get confused and wonder why the teaching one person one thing and another person another. But it's all specific cases in the practice. Each person has a different temperament and skills and mannerisms, and so it's a case by case basis. So the practice in Buddhism is about learning. So there are many things that are encapsulated by the practice. For example, we have to learn morality, we have to learn samadhi, or mental training. How is it that samadhi will arise or wisdom will arise? These are the things we need to learn. The morality is a basis for the practice and helps us be able to achieve meditation and achieve samadhi if we are able to have good moral standards. And if we have correct samadhi and understand what that is, then it's easy to achieve insights and attain wisdom. But if we don't have correct samadhi, then that won't happen. So the duty of a Buddhist is to learn the truth about life. And what does life have? Life has mental and physical phenomena, mental phenomena, physical phenomena. That is our truth. When we see the truth of them, then the mind will release attachment, relax out of the attachment. It'll see that these things, this mind, this body, are not things that are worthy of our attachment. The Buddha taught that we become dispassionate to the mental and physical phenomena, our body and mind. Become dispassionate, disenchanted, until there is equanimity towards them or impartiality towards them. And once there's impartiality, then there is release and liberation. We'll see when we practice, we'll see subtleties. We'll see that the mind goes in and grasps and holds on to the six senses upon their arising. And then when we're looking to how do I let go of these things, you try to find a way to let go of them, but it won't let go. And then it's because there isn't enough wisdom, so just grab onto them again. But we have to rely on seeing the three characteristics over and over again. And then one day the noble truths will be seen. The truth of suffering will be seen. Like right now, we believe as non-enlightened beings that this body and mind are suffering at times and happy at times. But the anagami can see that the body is nothing but suffering. It is suffering itself. The body is just a conglomeration of elements that were here long before our birth, that are elements that belong to the world. It's just a material, it's just property of the world. And when the mind sees the truth that it isn't us and that it is suffering, if it sees that it isn't us, that is the first stage of wisdom. At the next level of understanding, with regards to the body, it is already known that the body isn't us, but then sees that the body is also suffering itself. That is the level of the anagami, it's understanding. So unenlightened people who aren't stream enterers yet see the body still is us or a self. The stream enterer understands that the body and the mind are not a self. There is no self. What is there then? There's just elements, just components or aggregates. But the mind still clings to these things. It's like when we're living in somebody else's house, we're relying on their house, we're using the house, we're not going to throw it away or dispose of it. We still are involved with it, but the freedom from attachment will happen when suffering is seen utterly and completely, that the body is suffering. That is the intermediate level of wisdom that's for the non-return or the anagami, but for the first stage of wisdom, that is seeing that these things, the body and the mind, are not us. That is the stream enterer. When the body is seen as suffering itself, utterly suffering, then the mind will not attach to the body ever again. So the five senses, which are part of the body experience, those won't be attached to the eyes, ears, the seeing, the hearing, the smelling, the tasting, the touching, will not be attached to. The rest of us are still attached to the body and thus attached to physical contact, physical senses, and what they experience. So in practice, we see the mental and physical phenomena until there is disenchantment or dispassion to them, and then eventually equanimity or impartiality to them, and then the mind releases and liberates. The truth is, the mind is suffering as well. The mind is hungry for happiness and in the pursuit of it all the time, but generally, there is a lot more suffering than there is happiness. Once the truth of the body is understood and it is seen as suffering and all the senses are seen as suffering, then there's no longer any attempt to achieve any happiness out of the senses. The mind is very wise, but it still thinks at that stage that there's happiness from meditation, happiness from experiences of samadhi. those of us that aren't able to achieve samadhi, extended um, or extended periods of jhana, are able to be able to achieve jhana, then we still think that sense pleasure is where happiness comes from, the senses. We think that we want to hear songs and see nice looking things and want to eat tasty things. But the mind that has samadhi will, especially the type of samadhi in meditation, the mind will not have any of the hindrances, the five hindrances. The mind isn't restless, and so it isn't agitated or irritated. And it is happy with the samadhi. It doesn't think that much when it gets curious or about anything or has any doubt. It doesn't get agitated or follow it. So a non-enlightened being that has samadhi is able to conceal temporarily the five hindrances, and there'll be much less interest in the five senses, in getting pleasure out of the senses. It'll seem unreasonable because the happiness is more sublime from the meditation or the samadhi than it is from the happiness we could, the fleeting type of happiness we could get from the senses. When the mind has samadhi, then things trying to get pleasure out of the world, out of lust, different senses and sensual desire, appears dirty. So we have to practice vipassana and keep practicing it continuously. And then when we first have the enlightening wisdom, we'll see that the body and that the mind are not us, but we still care about them and are concerned about them and are involved in them. At the next level of wisdom, it is seen that the body and the five senses accordingly are suffering itself, and then there'll be no more interest in sense pleasure. The desire for the senses and sense pleasure will be completely eliminated for the non-returner or the anagami. And then for the arahant, the final stage of wisdom, that is the arahant. The anagami is the one who has totally released the body and the senses, and there'll be no more desire for sense pleasure. The arahant, or the fully enlightened being, has returned the mind to the world as well, released all attachment to the mind, as well as the body. Non-enlightened or early stages still believe that the body and mind are happy at times and unhappy at times. And if there's still a sense that there's happiness and unhappiness available, then the mind will pursue that happiness. For sense pleasure, the mind grabs and grasps at the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body to gain pleasures. But the non-returner, the mind doesn't get sent out to the sense pleasures and doesn't get sent out to the senses because there's no desire to, the desire has been eliminated to move to the senses to gain any pleasure. So the mind isn't sent out anymore to the body. But when there is still two paths or two directions, there could be happiness or unhappiness, then the mind will continue to be attached to the things that can give us the happiness if there's still two options. But when there's no more, when it sees the truth that there are no options and that it's utterly suffering, then the mind will release attachment to the things that are utterly suffering. The body, namely the body at non-returner stage and the mind at arahant stage. When full wisdom has been arrived at, where it sees that the mind itself is suffering, that there isn't happiness at all, there's just lots of suffering and less suffering, but it's all suffering, then there won't be, the mind will return the mind to the world. It'll let go of the mind and it'll be the end of birth, the end of becoming, the end of birth. The mind no longer is restless or agitated or is able to fabricate any states anymore. It's the end of the analogy is it's the end of the studies. We've graduated from the doctoral degree, understand completely the topic, and there's nothing to learn anymore. So when a mind has done its learning and studying and fully understands the morality, samadhi, and then the wisdom is complete, then there isn't anything left to learn once liberation has occurred. So the arahant has no more dealings with the world, that there is liberation and it is the end of rebirth, the end of becoming, of fabricating. And there's no need to look around at people or monks and say this one is an arahant or this one is this or that. Let's not attach to that and believe that stuff. Let's just practice for ourselves and get through the stages for ourselves. When we arrive at stream entry, then we'll be able to tell the people that are not yet at stream entry, and we'll be able to tell those that are at stream entry. But those that are above stream entry, we won't understand. It's not at our level of understanding to know those that are higher than us in wisdom. Now the first three enlightenments, the stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, they're still learning. There's still more wisdom to learn. The arahant doesn't need to learn or study anything else because they've completed their studies. So understand the principle when we practice that we're learning, we're studying about ourselves. We keep studying until there is no more attachment to the body and mind because they are suffering itself.
จิตที่เหลืออยู่ไม่พ้นจากความทุกข์ไปค่อยๆฝึกเอานะขั้นต้นตั้งใจรักษาศีลไว้ก่อน
The mind becomes liberated from suffering.
ต้นเนี้ยไม่เคยรักษาศีลไม่เห็นคุณค่าอาศัยศรัทธา
We have to start with morality.
ให้เรารักษาศีลครูบาอาจารย์สอน
Many people see morality as something that doesn't have any benefit or any value. But those that have faith in Buddhism, or have faith at least in the teachings, or have some confidence that it's true, then let's get started practicing morality. Let's have a look and see if we are very good at practicing our moral training, how it helps our practice. There was someone when I was younger.
คนอื่นเขาอดเหล้าตอนเข้าพรรษาแกกินเหล้าตอนเข้าพรรษาพอนอกพรรษาแกไม่กินคนก็ไปว่าแกไม่รู้จักอดเหล้าเข้าพรรษาเนี่ยพวกมหาด้วยกันนะก็ไปว่าแก
He was a man who, during the Buddhist rains retreat, he would drink alcohol for the 3 months, but he wouldn't drink alcohol for the 9 months. That it wasn't the rains retreat. A lot of people would do the opposite. So that's better than just taking the reins off. But I would say, why not try all 12 months? So for somebody that drank alcohol every day, and then we stop for the 3 months of the rains retreat, at the end of the rains retreat, don't rush to start drinking again. If you don't rush to do it and you look back at those 3 months of accomplishment, you'll feel satisfied with the accomplishment. The mind will be happy, and it will have momentum in keeping the morality. So that the mind that has been moral will have strength to it and have a happiness and calmness to it that it didn't before, which is a predecessor for samadhi. It's already the beginning of samadhi starting. So practice and see. When we have morality, the mind isn't as agitated or restless, right? If we're thinking that, okay, I want to have a mistress now. What should I do? How do I get that done? Right? But if we don't have those types of concerns or agitations or thoughts, then the mind is much calmer. We might be at home and just indifferent to our present situation. Even if it isn't that happy or exciting at home, it's much more peaceful, and the mind isn't as agitated if we just know that we're a moral being and stay impartial to the situation. It is peaceful and comfortable and calm to not commit adultery and just be comfortable with our partner. It's not an easy thing to practice meditation or to achieve samadhi when our mind doesn't have correct moral training and is doing this wrong and doing that wrong. So the masters say, give it a try. Give morality, pure morality, a try. And then you see, oh, that has lots of good characteristics, lots of benefits, the morality.
สัมปชัญญะของเราก็ดีขึ้นนะ
Right? We feel
ความเชื่อ
better
ถือของเราก็ดูดี
about
ขี้เมา
ourselves.
อ้อแอพูดอะไร
We
ใครก็เชื่อ
are
เนี่ยคือ
calmer.
ศีลเราไม่ขโมยใครซื่อสัตย์
Right? People are
ชีวิตของเรา
gossiping
ก็ดีขึ้น
and backstabbing
มีบาง
others,
คน
you
นะ
know, talking,
บอก
and
เป็
we
น
don't
ดี
involve
เป็น
ourselves
ปล่
of
อย
that.
ผ่า
The
น
mind is more calm.
แล้ววิธีการก็คือไม่ใช่
We don't steal, we don't cheat
เรา
from
ไม่ใช่
anyone.
นี่เดี๋ยวนี้พวกนักธุรกิจรวยๆบางทีเขาอยู่ด้วยกันนะแล้วเขาไม่จดทะเบียนนะสามีไปกู้เงินมาเยอะแยะยายเมียไม่เกี่ยวนะไม่ใช่หนี้อะไรเงี้ยเนี่ยมันไม่ได้มีความสุขจริงหรอกนะในใจมันคิดจะเอาของคนอื่นคิดโลภนะ
So we're not happy when we're greedy and we want other people's properties.
ในสิ่งที่เรามีสิ่งที่เราเป็นนะมันมีความสุขอยู่ในตัวเองรักษาศีลมักน้อย
But
สันโดษนะ
when we're satisfied and we're okay with what we have, there is a cool and
การฝึก
calmness
ตัวเอง
to
ในทางธ
that.
รรมะรู้จักมักน้อยสันโดษอะไรขึ้นมาเนี่ยใจเรามีความสุข
We have to know how to be comfortable and satisfied
เกิดสมาธิ
with what we
ส
have
งบอัตโนมัติง่ายๆเลย
and
บางคนบอกว่าพ่อนา
not be
ใจ
too
ไม่สงบสักที
difficult
ทำไงดี
in the sense that we need more and more.
ลองไปถือศีลดูลองมักน้อยสันโดษดู
So try to be satisfied
สงัดวิเวก
with what you have. Try to have
ลองไม่คลุกคลีไม่
morality.
มากนัก
Try not to bother too much with other
ไม่เอาแต่
people.
เล่นเน็ตนะเล่นเน็ตนี่คลุกคลีนะไม่เจอหน้า
Even
คลุกคลีด้วยนิ้วมือ
spending time in social media,
ก็ไม่คลุกคลี
that's involving ourselves in social things.
ดูสิมันจะไม่ดีได้ไงนะศีลมันก็จะดีขึ้นสมาธิมันก็จะดีขึ้นนะ
If we don't bother with that stuff, we'll have better samadhi and we'll also have better
ศีล
morals.
ไหมนะในทางธรรมะก็หัดมักน้อยสันโดษบ้างอย่าโลภมากนะ
Let's not be too
สิ่ง
greedy
ที่เรามี
and
สิ่งที่เราเป็น
be satisfied with what we have and who we
ไม่
are.
ไปขโมยใครไม่เป็นชู้กับใคร
And if we're satisfied, then we're not going to run out and cheat. We're not going to steal. We're not going to have a mind busy trying to acquire things all the time.
ตัวเองนะเบื้องต้นลองดูลองแล้วเราเห็นผลจิตใจของเราเปลี่ยน
So we
ชีวิต
try
เรามีความสุขมากขึ้น
and we give it a try, and then we say, oh, the mind has more happiness
เกิดจากปัญญา
than when it was so restless looking for
ปัญ
acquisitions
ญาจะเกิด
and
จากการที่เราได้เห็นความจริงแล้วว่าเราถือศีล
and being
เรา
less
สัน
moral.
โดษนะ
We feel
จิตใจ
happy,
เราร่มเย็น
happier, then we start to have more
เห็น
faith
ผลนะ
that
เกิดกำลังใจที่จะป
we
ฏิ
see
บั
the
ติมากขึ้น
results. And so we have more confidence, more faith in the practice, and then we'll practice more.
สบาย
And after we've practiced morality for a long time,
สบาย
it's an easy thing to do. We feel good about it. At first, it can be
สมาธิก็
difficult for those that are immoral, might not see the benefit.
รักษามาดีแล้ว
But once we see the benefit, we feel happier, and then it's easy to be moral.
หรือจะทำไง
It's easy for good people to be moral.
ใจของเรา มันไม่คิดร้ายคนอื่น ไม่ขโมย ไม่อะไรนี่ไม่คิดจะอยากได้อะไรของใคร
When we're
ใจเราไม่ดิ้นนะใจเรามันไม่ดิ้นรนนะใจมันก็มี
the mind doesn't waver as much
สมาธิ
in the face of other people's property or
สังเกตนะ
different things on the market or different ways to get what other people have.
ฝึกยาก
Right? When the mind isn't wavering, the mind isn't fabricating as
ท่าน
much,
พอดีสอนให้ทำ
and
อานาปานสติ
we're able to enter
ทำให้กี่วันจิตก็สงบนะ
more
เพราะเด็ก
calm and comfortable states leading to samadhi.
ไม่มีเรื่องต้องคิดเยอะไม่เคยเป็นชู้กับใครนะแล้วก็ไม่ได้กินเหล้าไม่ได้ไปทำร้ายสัตว์ไม่ได้โกหกใครไม่ได้ขโมยใคร
So never
นะมันเหมือนยังสะอาดอยู่อะงั้นให้ไปนั่งสมาธินะใจมันสบายๆเหมือนสะอาดนั่งแป๊บเดียวก็สงบ
when I was younger, I
ของ
didn't
พวกเรานะมันเหมือนผ้าที่ปนเปื้อนสกปรกอะกว่าจะซักให้
get involved in any immoral activity, and I was able to achieve
พอ
samadhi or achieve deep meditation easily. So we have to practice washing and making our mind cleaner and cleaner. A child has, in that lifetime, a child has far less dirt, let's say, on their minds than adults who've done lots of things wrong or have done more immoral acts in their lives, right? Kids haven't had the time to accumulate a lot of harm to people, to animals, haven't stolen, haven't cheated on spouses and stuff. So it's easy to achieve meditation. But as we're older and have accumulated lots of immoral acts, it becomes harder to. So we have to keep a strong moral code and slowly start to wash away the dirt. And kids practice more easily. If they're really young and start practicing meditation, then they can get results quickly. Mahagassapa from the Buddhist age era was an old monk, and he was an enlightened monk. There's somebody these days named Venerable Panuk. At 60 is when he ordained and started practice. And he was so beautiful and clean so quickly when he ordained. And that's because his morals were impeccable even before his ordination. So let's practice these morals and keep the precepts and practice our formal meditation every day so that the mind isn't too restless. So let's have a home base for the mind, a meditation object where the mind is happy, when the mind is happy to be there. So we have to be able to pick a meditation object that the mind likes and is happy to be with, and then it won't run to other things. The mind won't be restless. As happiness is the proximate cause for samadhi. So when I would breathe in and breathe out, feel very happy, breathing in Bud, breathing out Do, and the mind is happy there, so it doesn't go anywhere else, and it's able to stay at the same object for a longer period, and samadhi arises. So let's notice when we do our formal meditation, what type of object is enjoyable for the mind, and then use that. But just make sure that it is a wholesome object, right? If you're happy scolding people, right, you can't just scold people as your object of meditation. We can't choose an object that tempts or lures defilements into existence. When the mind is happy with a singular object, then it won't run off to other objects, to other things. It won't be interested in sense pleasures and sensuality while it's very happy with the object that it's with. If we have that right approach, it won't take long at all until calmness occurs. And when we're calm for a while, the mind then feels refreshed. But once it's refreshed, don't just stop there, right? Instead of staying with the object, let go of the object, at least let go of it from time to time. And now we still have a meditation object or still have a home base for the mind, but we're not letting the mind stick to it. Instead, we're learning our own mind. So we switch the approach and instead study the mind from there as a place from which to gauge the mind. So if we want to practice to have the mind calm and get a rest, similar like a sleep, then we stay with the object happily, and then we can get refreshed, right? We're not letting it just stay there and rest there. Instead, we have the main object as but we let go of the object, but we still have it there as a basis from which to gauge the mind. So when the mind has departed from the object or the home base, then it's very clear that it has. We're able to know the mind or see what the mind has done. The mind moves towards the meditation object or moves away from it. We're able to know when those things happen. When the mind sees the mind very often, for example, sees the mind that moves off the meditation object often, it gets very familiar with that state, and then it's able to achieve automatic mindfulness, and the mind will have automatic samadhi, seeing a phenomena just as it is. And the mind will be the stand-apart observer and be able to see things as they really are. It'll have correct samadhi. It withdraws from and just withdraws from the phenomena that it's observing, and is just the knower of phenomena. It'll see that the body is being known or being observed, that the mind is not the body. And it'll see that the body is not us. And when discerning the feelings in the body, sensing physical sensations, and sensing the pleasure and displeasure and indifference that occur as feelings in the mind, it'll see that these things aren't the mind, but they're things that the mind sees or observes. They're not us. They're not. And the same truth for the defilements, the wholesome and unwholesome states in the mental formations. These things like anger come up, and they're seen as not the mind, but something that the mind sees, not us. Right? So nothing will seem as us, except still the mind itself will seem like us. But we have to have strong samadhi. And we'll see that the mind has samadhi, or the mind is the stand-apart observer, just for a moment, and then it gets lost in thought. And then when that is known and wakes up, it's the stable observer again. And the mind hears something, and then it appears at the mind, or it appears at hearing, and then that's become aware of, and then the mind becomes the one with samadhi, or the knower again. So what we start to see is that one moment the mind is the knower, and then the next moment the mind is the listener. The next moment it's the thinker. Right? There isn't just one mind. If we're speaking as if we're using the Abhidhamma to understand, then we use the great wholesome mind that is unprompted. It is not lost. The mind with this correct samadhi, it is light, bright, agile, and ready for work, and gentle, weightless. It's unprompted. It isn't something that, it isn't fabricated or built. It occurs on its own. If it's being fabricated, then we're just using thought to make it and building it up. It's not the real thing. Right? This is automatic mindfulness, with automatic mindfulness, then samadhi, true samadhi occurs, the great wholesome mind. And then wisdom can occur. Seeing the three characteristics of phenomena. So there isn't just one mind. The knower mind arises and then passes, and then what arises is the mind that is seeing a form, and then that disappears, and then there is the knowing mind again that arises and disappears. The mind lost in thought arises, disappears. The knower mind arises and appears. We'll see that the mind is impermanent because it goes to the different senses, and the mind at each of the senses is just there for a moment. It's not permanent. And whether the mind arises at the mind is angry or happy, unhappy, is wholesome or unwholesome, it isn't anything that is ordered into existence or built up. It's just by us. It's just things that happen in and of themselves according to its own causes, not under anyone's control. We'll see non-self of all things. And that's what the stream enterer sees. The anagami sees that the body is utterly suffering and there's no more moving to the senses to achieve pleasure. The Arahant has let go of all attachment to the mind as well, and doesn't go to pick up anything ever again. So it's been about 45 minutes. That's enough for today. Time for the homework. I feel bad for the people that are ready to submit their homework, getting all tense as soon as I said that it's the end of the talk. If you're so upset about submitting your homework, then why are you bother doing it? One moment. Number 1. I walk meditation about 3 hours a day. I observe the breath at the nostril. It comes in cool, goes out hot. Sometimes I use Buddha as well. Sometimes listen to Dhamma talks while I practice. I feel more distant from the world and have more mindfulness. And I am donating my practice to the Buddha every day. Thumbs up. Number 2. Very good, number 1. Your practice is great. You weren't satisfied when I put up my thumb. I had to put up 2. The mind has changed tremendously. The world has become distant. If you understand the texts, you'll see how deep they are when you practice like this. When this person is not asking from the text, apologies, this person is not asking from the text, they're asking from the direct experience. And so it's just beautiful and bright. You get 2 thumbs up. Number 2, you're stressed. Number 1 did so well. How am I going to do? During the day I do some chanting. Sometimes I think about bright light. I see the 3 characteristics of the body and mind frequently. I feel like there's more development than before. Am I on the right path? Yes, you're on the right path. Keep practicing. But there's something you need to observe. Don't hold the mind still. Right now, you're holding the mind still. Can you see that? The mind isn't normal. You love goodness, and you're trying to keep the mind good. Don't keep it. When you're holding and keeping it, know that you're keeping it. The mind will be tight and heavy. The mind that knows naturally is weightless and is very thin. Just a moment, right in the present, and it's completely quiet. It doesn't think a lot. It just sees what is there. Number 2, you practice well. But what you need to see and observe is that there's still holding a little still state there. Yeah. Don't think about it too much and just see it as it is. The practice will evolve from here. Number 3, practice formal and in daily life every day. I see that sometimes it goes well, sometimes not. More advice. When the mind is, when the practice is going well and you feel happy, know that. When it's not going well, you feel unhappy, then know that. Soon you'll see that they are the same. The practice going well or not well, they're the same thing. They both arise and fall. Number 4, I don't usually have enough energy to observe the mind. I mostly observe the body. As soon as I finish thinking about one thing, the mind starts thinking about another. I notice I find my thoughts important. When we have work that we have to think about, we can't prohibit the mind from thinking about it. It's going to think about it. Now, when we think about work, we often have to think. But when we keep thinking for a while, right, we have to understand that the defilements that arise with it, those aren't our work. Right? So we're thinking about work and then we feel upset, then know that you feel upset. Right? So you think, this is for people who have work and responsibilities where thinking is essential. Right? So that we let the mind think and then we see the defilements that arise in accordance with what we were thinking. It's very hard to observe the mind when we're working and we have a busy mind from working. We have to rely on the body, and then we'll gain energy, and then we'll be able to observe the mind. Can you see now that you're holding your mind like this? This is no need to do that. No need to hold any state. There isn't just one mind. It's arising and falling all the time. When you're curious, know there is curious. Know the mind as it is regularly, and know comfortably. Don't hold it together. Number 5. I see the body and mind separate in formal practice. I've been doing walking, and the body moves and the mind knows. I see thoughts popping up. Observe the body during the day. When I think about the practice, then I notice that I start focusing and holding. Sometimes the mind is neutral towards the separation of body and mind. There are 2 types of separating. There's intentionally separating. That's not good. when the mind is a stand-apart observer on its own and separation happens on its own, then that's ideal. So there's still intending to make the separation happen going on. Now, there always has to be a little intention at first. That's not incorrect, but you have to be able to see right now you're holding stillness. That's incorrect. Don't try to keep anything still. We just want to see things as they actually are. And then we'll see the truth. We'll be able to see the truth of them. Can you see the mind now can become joyful? Being holding like that is incorrect samadhi. And then once you let it go, the mind feels joyful. But don't try to hold that joy either. That's just a bonus. And you're starting to hold things together again. Don't do that. Number 6. Number 4. You're sending your mind out to observe. Your mind is moving and sliding out. See the mind moving out to see. Number 6. I used to watch the body moving. Now I'm watching the breath in and out. Breathing in, I'm being able to notice it more often. During the day, I can see anger arising all the time. I'm trying to wake up earlier to practice in the morning because I fall asleep when I practice formally at night. Am I practicing well, properly, according to my temperament? Yes, you're practicing well. You just have to be patient, gradually improve. Now your mind is lost in thought, right? Yes, good. You saw that. When the mind, do you notice that when your mind wanders off and then you're aware that it has wanders off and then the mind wakes up? So the mind wanders off and then you know it does and it wakes up each time. And keep practicing like that gradually. Number 7, have a lot of work and haven't been practicing as regularly as before, but I still do it every day with some walking and noticing the breathing, separate and gentle, as if I'm observing from behind, noticing subtle movement in the foreground. But when I start thinking of things out in the world and my life, I wander way off. You're pulling the mind back. That's intentional. And then when you're holding that intentional, when you're holding the mind intentionally, then when it lets go of that, you get really annoyed with it. The mind can become a really angry mind when you stop holding. You're creating unnecessary burdens. Just let the mind go off and know. Let the mind go off and know, and the mind will become the stable observer by itself. It'll stand apart as with correct samadhi by itself from seeing the mind that goes off to think or wander off frequently. When you're pulling and holding, the mind will be neutral and it'll be dull and tight and still rather than joyful and awake and weightless. ชีวิตประจำวันมีสติอยู่กับลมหายใจนั่งสมาธิคอยตามดูตามรู้การเคลื่อนของจิตส่วนใหญ่ไหลไปอยู่กับการคิด Number 8 บ้างไม่ทันบ้างบางครั้งเห็นเบื้องหลังของการคิดการกระทำและคำพูด Observing that the mind goes off into thought. Sometimes I'm able to see the background behind the thought, a feeling of ego and subtler things of feelings of
ถ้าเป็น
wanting.
จีแล้วจิตเราก็จะผ่อง
Am
ใส
I seeing
ส
this
ว่างไสวัย
correctly? Yes, you are. You're really seeing this. The mind will be light and bright. You look good. Number 8. Just practice comfortably. Practice without looking for results and being too hasty. And the mind will
ไป
be
เรื่อย
improve
ๆตัวเนี้ย
on
จิต
its
มัน
own.
เคลื่อนออกไปเห็นไหม
Your mind is moved out. Can you see that?
เคลื่อนไปดูเคลื่อนไปฟังเคลื่อนไปคิดส่วนใหญ่เคลื่อน
The
อยู่
mind
สาม
is
ช่อง
moving out. Primarily, the mind
จิต
moves
เคลื่อน
out
เรา
to
รู้
hear, to
จิตเคลื่อน
see,
เรา
and
รู้
to
ไม่ได้
think.
ห้ามนะ
The mind moves out and then no so. The mind moves out again and then no so. Don't force anything. Don't try to control anything. Just know. That's all for today.
วันนี้